my name is Madison. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you could make it. It is officially that time of the month. It's maybe even a little bit late to be that time of the month. It is time to do a monthly wrap up. So we're gonna go through the 8 books that I read in the month of April, which how it is already May. Time is going too fast. I'm not totally into it. I am like a chronic overthinker. So whenever I'm like setting up my camera or getting ready, I'm always like kind of thinking of what I want to say and like where my thoughts are all at. Maybe that's normal. Maybe everybody does that. I never end up saying what I think I want to say, and then I always think about it later and I always regret it. Literally, I'm over-explaining. It's not what you're here for. When I was thinking about it, I was gonna say this is like one of the best reading months that I've had in a while. Maybe not numerically, but like quality-wise. But then I remembered how this month started. And I guess a better depiction of how this month's reading went would just kind of be a little bit of all over the goddamn place. Because I did start off the month on a reading slump, and then I got a lot of 5 stars. It'll make more sense once we get into it. I started off the month with The Ashes and the Starcursed King. This is the second book to The Crowns of Nyaxia, first duet that is out. But I say this every single time because I feel like some people miss it. If you read the Crown of Nyaxia series, read Six Scorched Roses in the Middle, the novella. It's beautiful. It is like one of the most beautiful novellas I've read to date. I rated it 6 stars. I loved it so much. Now, this is the culprit here. I'm still kind of a bit in a reading slump. I feel like I've been on and off of one prolongedly for like kind of a while now. I'm just like in and out of it. Some things catch my attention. I feel like I'm having trouble at the beginning of books. Like I'm not enjoying the beginning of books, like regardless of how good they are. And I know that that's me in a reading slump because I always get so excited starting a new book, and I have not been recently. This guy, however, I would not recommend for a reading slump, okay? Since finishing this and like talking to you guys about this a little bit, I think a lot of people have the experience that the first half of this is a little bit slow and mundane. Yeah, this was slumping me pretty hardcore. That being said, I did end up rating it a 4.75 in the end. The whole latter half of this, like I can still picture scenes in my head. I love the way that Carissa Broadbent writes. It's not just like beautiful, and it's not poetic in a way that is like poetry reading style. It's more like the storylines are poetic. Like I feel like I find with her stories that even though they're like fantasies and I cannot connect to them in any way, shape, or form. Like I'm not a vampire, okay? But I feel like she has these tidbits and her characters have these lessons and they go through things that just feel like real character growth, and they're really interesting to read on top of being the romantic plot that she already has. In The Storm in the Wings of the Night, the first book of the series, we're following Aurea, which is a human girl that has been adopted by the Vampire King, and the Kajari has come up, which is this competition that happens every 100 years, kind of Hunger Games-esque. Whoever wins at the end of it gets a wish from Nyaxia. Granted, Nyaxia being the god in this world, being the little fragile human that she is, she's kind of in need of that wish. I have to say, with this one, I think it's really hard to do enemies to lovers twice. It's really, really hard. It can be repetitive. It can just be annoying. Like I know a lot of people did not like it in Iron Flame. It is hard to do. That being said, in this, she does it so well. Like I mean, I feel like we know the characters are gonna end up together. It's kind of, I don't think I've ever read a book where the characters don't end up together, so you can kind of assume that. But from the beginning of this, I honestly didn't know how they would get through it. I didn't know how they would. She did it in a way that makes sense to me. I loved this story. I hated the first half's reading experience. It was still really beautifully written and I still really enjoyed it. I just like, it was like kind of trudging along, you know? Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I'm so happy to be saying this because I have been putting this off for so long. Not even on purpose, just been like very distracted. One Dark Window was like one of the quickest 5 stars I've ever given the first book in a fantasy series ever. Like it was a true, clean 5-star read, and this did not disappoint. It did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. The way that I view this world, like I feel like every world in my head I picture like a very specific way, and the way that I read this world and like picture this world, there's something about how she has described this town that I feel like I am watching from overhead, and they are like a little Christmas town with characters moving around, and that's where things are happening, and I love it. I love that it has that denotion in my head. I have absolutely no idea why it does, but I love it. I didn't know what I was gonna think about this one because this one follows like a second love story, and we get new perspectives in this that I was not anticipating to get. In the beginning, I was kind of like, oh my god, I might not care. I might not care. And everybody said this one was gonna be better. You were right. You were right, okay? I actually really liked both love lines in this, and the way that the story comes together in the end and like ties together like a bow, I thought was so well done. It made so much sense. Like reading this was satisfying. Every single thing that you read culminated to something in an ending that like personally I was very, very happy with, and I liked the romance in this. I wasn't expecting when I picked up One Dark Window for the first time for it to even be a romantasy. I hadn't even heard that, and then when we got the romantasy, we love a good little romance plot. I mean, I think I know about myself that I love a romance in something. If there's no romance in something, I can easily get bored. I loved the romantasy in this. The magic system in this is like a very gothic tarot card inspired, and it's so unique. I like have never read anything like this. I need more recommendations like this because I loved this world. In One Dark Window, our main character Elizabeth has this voice in her head with her, and we don't know why, but neither really does she. And we're kind of trying to figure out why that is happening in this world that has a tarot card inspired magic system where when you tap them, you get the power from the card. Trying to collect the cards. It's so good. Now, this is where my month gets really good, okay? Because this book, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. 6 stars, like 6 stars across the board. I'm thinking about this every single day right now. Still to this day thinking about it every single day. This is Abby Jimenez's best work from what I've read. I've only read this series so far. I have not read The Friend Zone, her first 3 interconnected standalones. However, yours truly was already a 6-star read for me, and this is so much better. I will say, if you are thinking about reading this, it is beautiful and amazing on its own, but it is so good and so impactful if you read Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and then read this. Like, the cameos that we get in this was 60% of the reason that I sobbed like a baby. Like, the second I put this down, I was like, it's a 6-star. I'm gonna think about this every single day. And I was right. If my annotations do not give away, like every single page pretty much. I love Abby Jimenez's writing. She does these very beautifully crafted rom-com energy books that have so much substance. Like, they're so emotional. There's a deeper storyline. It's not like just a light fluffy read. It's also like has this emotional depth that is just, I love her writing so much. She is very obviously like one of my auto-buy authors. I can't wait to go back and read the first 3 books from her first interconnected standalone series. In this, we're following Emma and Justin, and Justin is posted on an Am I the Asshole forum, and in that original post he said that he has this curse where every single person he dates goes on to find the love of their life after breaking up with him. And Emma sees this post and is like, oh my god, that's so funny, I have the exact same curse. Some stuff goes down and they end up deciding to date just for the summer to hopefully cancel out their own curses, because then if they date each other and then break up, they're both bound to find the love of their lives. Emma is a travel nurse and she has gone to Michigan, and yes, it is at the same hospital that Part of Your World and Yours Truly is based in. And the cameos, they're so good. The way that the end of this book wraps up this whole fake Michigan version of this world, for me, no words. Emma, as a travel nurse, takes a 6-week position with her best friend Maddie in Michigan, and everything kind of stems from there. Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This is another one of my extremely highly anticipated reads. I ended up giving it a 4.25. I really liked it. I did enjoy it a lot. I love Elsie Silver's writing always, and like I love her worlds always. I think that she does interconnected standalone cowboy romances like no one else. Like, when I'm talking interconnected standalones, like I want a fluffy, light interconnected standalone, she does it like no one else. The way that she writes her world, it just feels like you're so in on the joke. This book is following Ford, which is Willa from the second book in Chestnut Springs' Heartless's brother. Did that make sense? I'm gonna go with yeah. And Rosie, which is Ford's childhood best friend's younger sister. Ford has been coined the world's sexiest billionaire, and Rosie has recently been let go from her job and is moving back to their hometown. They end up working together, and this like kind of mutual pining that they've always had since childhood, or like this attraction, starts budding. I was really worried that this is gonna be extremely physically based, like very physical of a relationship. It didn't end up being that. I thought it was really well done. I definitely didn't care about it as much as I cared about Powerless, like as the beginning of an interconnected standalone series. I haven't really thought about it a lot since, but it was like a solid read. I enjoyed reading it. I liked everything about it. Didn't feel like overly connected to the characters. I would still really recommend it, and I really enjoyed reading it, and I'm excited to see where this series goes. Ricochet by Kristen Becker Ritchie. This is like the little novella that comes after Addicted for You, first book in the Addicted Calloway Sisters series. I am trudging through it slowly but surely. I've been told that the third book, it's Addicted something. Addicted for You, to you, after all. Addicted something. This is like the little novella where we're following just Lily. A lot of people have told me that this is like the most boring in the series, like you just kind of have to get through it. I didn't find it awful. Like, I'm not that connected to the characters yet. I do feel like more immersed in this world. It kind of was just fine. Like, I haven't thought about it at all since. I'm not like itching to get further into the series, but I've heard that the third one is going to be when I really get into it. The beginning of the Addicted series is following Lily and Lo, and they each have an addiction, and they fake dated to keep their families off their backs so they could keep doing their addiction. Lily is addicted to sex and Lo is an alcoholic. It's really tumultuous, but there's like clearly a lot of love there. And now seeing the sprinkles of like other relationships we're gonna get in the Calloway Sister series once we're done with Addicted, I'm very excited to keep going with the series, and I can imagine that I'm gonna be very connected to it, but at this point in time I'm like not pulling for it. It's good, but I'm not addicted to it. Addicted to the Addicted series. Okay, now this one took me the heck by surprise. I listened to this on audio when I was on a road trip, and I got home and I was almost in the book, and I listened to the last hour of the audiobook and read in time with it, because there was no world that I could go about any part of my day without knowing how this was gonna end. All in, Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is by far my favorite from the Natural series that I've read so far. This is magic. This is so good. This was amazing. The case in this, I've seen a lot of people saying that this one was like a little bit too convoluted and a little too confusing, and I love the interconnectedness of this case. How minute and tiny the details that made this case work are like my bread and butter. I love listening to true crime, and I love like intricacies of like a case or like a mystery. I ate this up. I think it might have been easier to understand because I was listening to it on audio and not just reading it. It was so good. This is the best case by far. The Natural series is told in Casey Hobbs' perspective, and she is a part of an FBI program that takes on these kids that have these natural proclivities to skills the FBI would want. So like natural profilers, natural lie detectors, natural emotion readers, and so on and so forth. These kids have had like extremely traumatic, tumultuous past, and that is what has facilitated them developing these natural skills. But the FBI has caught on, and they don't want them to lose these skills by like going to university and like being indoctrinated to normal society. And also like realistically, these kids need each other, and these kids need the help. So they end up working on cold cases together in the beginning, which ends up bringing in some live cases, which ends up connecting to them. It's all pretty convenient. Like all of the cases end up having to connect to the kids and their own traumas and like the reason that they have the natural skills that they have. I don't care. It's so entertaining. It's so good. It's such a page turner. The case in this, I can't get over how good the case in this was. Like the Naturals was like a cute 4 stars. Killer Instinct was like 4.75. It was really good, and I was expecting this to drop down. In the beginning I thought it would, because I was just like, it's just kind of more of the same. But this case, and then the way that we go into the last book, Bad Blood, this is so good. It's so good. Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is where I'm talking about that I feel like I'm still a little bit in a reading slump, because I had like really negative thoughts about this. I think my next reading vlog will have this in it. You can see like the full breakdown of all my thoughts and like where my brain went. But for the first half of it, I really was just kind of like, fuck, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I had such high hopes for Emily Henry, and I just kind of feel nothing for it. But then I made it to the end, and I changed my mind. I still think this. It's definitely not this book. It is definitely my mind state and the fact that I'm having trouble getting into books. But when I made it to the end and I realized how connected to these characters I felt, and like the journey that we actually realistically ended up going on that I really wasn't thinking that much about, it was a 5-star for me. It's confusing. I really didn't have positive things to say for the first half. I was having trouble getting into this. It was a 5-star read for me in the end. If you want the full explanation, it'll be in the next video. It's kind of a roller coaster. It's definitely not my favorite Emily Henry book to date. I know a lot of people say that this is their absolute favorite, but like Happy Place and Beach Read, I need to do a reread very soon, live on such a pedestal for me, and like this didn't come to that. Those are like peak 6-star reads for me. This is a true 5-star. It was very good. I still very much so loved it. It's like right up there with Book Lovers. The storyline of this is so interesting, and it's also the very first time that Emily Henry has done fake dating, which I really liked her interpretation of it. At first was not very connected to the characters. I realized in the end I was very connected to the characters, very connected to them. Our main character, Daphne, is set to marry this guy named Peter, but he comes home from his bachelor party and is like, so I had a talk with my childhood best friend that I told you not to worry about, and we are in love with each other, and you need to move out right now, because like this is done. And the quickest thing that she can do to move out is move in with that girl best friend's ex-boyfriend, because I mean he has a room in his apartment now. And in a haste, she tells Peter that they're dating, and everything kind of goes on from there. It's kind of like Beach Read, where I don't know why I keep doing this. Hello. It's kind of like Beach Read, where they have these like set dates they go on. In Beach Read, they're obviously trying to learn each other's writing styles, but in this, Miles is trying to convince Daphne that she should stay in their town, and that there's a lot more to this town than the life that she pictured with Peter. It's really cute. The storyline is a little bit wandery. Like I found the romance tied this book together a lot more than I find Emily Henry's books tied together by romance normally. That sentence didn't make sense, and I know it. This is a lot more tied together. Like the storyline and like the overall flow of the book was a lot more tied to the romance versus all of Emily Henry's other books. It's more the storyline that the female character has to go on, and the growth that she has to go on, and the journey she has to go on that facilitates that romance. I had a tough time identifying what that was in the beginning. It was very, very romance heavy plotline wise, and it wandered a little bit. However, once we got to the end, it all made sense. I loved it, and it was a 5-star read for me, and I did not think it was gonna be, so that was a very good turn of events. On April 30th, Powerful from Lauren Roberts came out. This is one of my most anticipated. I had really questioned whether I loved Powerless as much as I think I loved Powerless, or if it was just like perfect place, perfect timing, and like the right romantasy story for me. And this just reminded me how much I love this world that she has built, and this story that she has built, and these characters, and the way that she writes them. Like she does banter so well. These are romantasy for romantasy readers. Like I feel like you can tell that she enjoys the genre, and obviously this crushed my heart. Like I knew it was going to. I knew I was gonna absolutely sob. I don't think I knew it was gonna make me sob quite as much as it did. This, I feel a lot of things for this. We're following Adina, which is Peyton from Powerless's best friend, and this is what Adina is doing while Peyton is in the trial trials in Powerless, and she ends up meeting Mac, who's also one person that he has in this world has been sent off to the trials, and they end up forming this like kind of unlikely relationship alliance. It is so sweet. It is grumpy sunshine. He compares her to the stars and the moon in ways that like are imprinted on my soul. Like, I think about quotes in this often. I cried while editing reading this for the reading vlog that this is in, just thinking about it again and like seeing some of the quotes again. It is so beautiful. It was so emotional, amazing, and cruel for us to get a Dina story. It just has made me so much more excited for Reckless and has just solidified how much I really did like Powerless. Like, it wasn't just right place, right time. It was the perfect romantasy for me. And I honestly, this could be a 6-star. It's a very quick read, but it really could be a 6-star. This was a very weird and then really good reading month. I was so excited about so many of these new releases. I am so excited that my expectations were met on so many of these new releases. And in terms of rating, this is probably like one of the best months I have ever had in my time as a reader. I loved so many of these. I am not going to be making a TBR for the month of May because I am headed to Europe at the end of this month. So I think I'm going to do something of a TBR for that, but not for the month of May. I'm also still not done my April TBR. And I have hopes that I can finish it. But let me know what your favorite book from April was, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you. Bye.